Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Backlog Breakdown. I'm one of your hosts, Nate, and this is a podcast. I'm totally borking this intro, but welcome back to another episode of the Backlog Breakdown, a video game podcast where we seek to encourage and equip the church to engage the medium of video games wisely and responsibly, or as I am prone to say, wisely and well. I am one of your hosts, Nate, and with me today, as per the usual, is my friend, my co-host, my brother in Christ, Josh Broccolo.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, dude?
Hey, doing well. Yeah, lots of stuff going on. Started a little later because of some things that some projects I'm working on. I'll just put it that way. That sounds so official. Yes, I had a meeting.
Meeting that ran late.
Yes, exactly. And so then I had to not just walk in the door, say I love you, family, and then head into recording, but actually kind of put my kids down and stuff like that. Anyways,
hey, dude. I mean, that's cool. I can see where your priorities are. I mean, like you're like, I'm gonna be a good dad instead of being a degenerate.
I love my family. Oh, take care of your family. Oh,
good for you, man.
But,
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that it's been, fairly like that. Well, I guess that you've been a good dad.
Aw.
That warms the cockles of my heart that is 6 sizes too small.
I'm glad that the cockles are warmed. In addition to being a good dad, as you say, I've also been a good citizen of the state of Iowa and the county of Warren.
You've performed your civic duties.
I have indeed. I had jury duty last week. It was only 2 days, but I did actually get to sit on the jury. I was actually
James Marsden
picked.
in your
He was not.
Jury
That would
selection
have
pool.
been a joy.
So good. So good. You at that point in time you would be like, I know what's going on.
Yes. Well, never mind. I'm not going to say that into the microphone. Were you in Sonic? Or something along those lines. But yes, that it's funny because my wife and I actually just watched through that a couple weeks ago, and it is still
It's a
just
great television
funny.
show. That's a great piece of television.
It is. There's language and some coarse jesting, but overall, it is very funny. So, anyways, yeah, don't need to go into that, but I did serve jury duty. It was an absolutely ridiculous case that never should have gone to court, but it was fun and interesting being a part of the jury and going into deliberations and hearing all the, the different sides and the witnesses and all that. So, and there was even video evidence of the occurrence. So it was interesting and I enjoyed it. While I also think that it was absolutely unnecessary. It should not have been prosecuted by the state, but it was, and so I did my duty. So my jury duty.
You did your jury duty.
Yes, and it
cool.
Yeah,
cool.
How have you been, sir? In the undisclosed amount of time since we last talked.
Cold.
Yep.
Cold.
Yep. Lots of the American plain.
The Americas
has been cold. Even back in my hometown area of Texas, they got some snow and frost and cold and
dude, I'm gonna throw some shade,
time.
man. And I get it, it's Texas and that like they don't know how to deal with the cold.
Exactly.
But, like I saw like a clip of some dude freaking out because there's like 3 inches of snow on the ground. It was like, how are we supposed to deliver in this? And I was like,
oh, gotcha.
You don't be a giant weenie. Like I would kill for 3 inches right now, my guy. Like 3 inches, I'd be like, yeah. It's like, I got like 2.5 feet on the ground, bro. Like I need you to calm all the way down.
Man.
Like, no, and I get it. Like, it's if you're not used to it, it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I just was like, I rolled my eyes so hard. I was just like,
yeah.
It's like, okay. Like, oh no, 3 inches ain't nothing, bro. You just don't be an idiot. Like,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we've had single digit temps, negative.
Yep.
We had like the rare day where we actually did not deliver mail on Monday.
Ooh.
Because it was just like there were a lot of things like actually they shut down a bunch of major highways for PennDOT and local municipalities. So like plow and salt trucks.
Gotcha.
And emergency services. So that kind of put a bit of a damper on mail. And then by the time they lifted the restrictions on Monday, like it was like the management told us to just like lay low. And so we spent a couple of days getting caught up, which wasn't too bad because there really wasn't a ton. We didn't have tons of mail, but like there's also it was weird. It was just weird. It's just been a weird week. But whatever. It's just it's cold. And you know, this is what I will say is like, yeah, single digit, like low tens, teens, kind of like into the negatives. And somebody like I've heard a lot of people be like, you must be cold. And it's like, well, a little bit. Like my hands get cold because like, you know, I don't really wear I wear a glove, and then a lot of times like I wear a glove on my left hand, and it's like a thin slate glove, and that's what I use to hold like raw mail that needs to be delivered. And then a lot of times my right hand is in my fleece pocket until I need it, and I kind of pull it out and I do my thing. So there's that. But it's like I told one lady, and she's like, your feet must be so cold. And I said, no, good boots, good socks. Like I said, and you change your socks out after a while. But good boots, good socks. It's like you're dressed for the weather. Like I'm not saying that I'm not cold. Like you dress for the weather. So I wear base layer, and like I have layers on, and it's like I'm wearing my basically my snow gear, and it's like, yeah, you wear the right clothes.
Yeah.
That's, you know, yeah, my face is got a little cold because you know it gets a little exposed, but it's like even there, it's like it's not that bad. Like
okay, well, hey,
wasn't
that's
that
good.
bad. Like a couple weeks ago, dude, it was like at one point in time it was like -10, -15 throughout the day or something, like at the start of the day. And I said that was cold. That was nasty and miserable, and I had a really rotten day. That was actually the first 20 minutes of my day. Like my hands went completely numb, both of them.
Boy,
I was wearing gloves. I actually I stood in the middle of like, and you know, the wind's just like ripping into you. And I was just like, I was holding the mail, and I was like, I literally could not feel my hands. And I was like so disgusted. And I just went, ah! Like I let out this like, ah! Like this freak out kind of yell in the middle of the street. And then I went back to carrying the mail.
Hey,
nah,
nice.
It's been cold. I mean, it's been cold a lot of places. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm out in it like all year long, and so it's like there is that kind of like, you know, I'll tell you when I feel it when I first start, and then when after my lunch break, because like I've had a chance to like sort of like warm up to like basically like room temp
for sure,
and then it's like my body's like, what do you know? We kind of like we got comfortable again, and I'm like, too late. We're going back outside. You want to be cold again. But yeah, no, it's been okay. It's been whatever, man.
Gotcha.
It's really cold. I hate this time of year. and you know, to be fair, like I complain about winter like every year. I do think that as a general rule, most realistically, like last winter had a really rough stretch for like 3 or 4 weeks. Maybe not even that long, but it was like it was a rough go for a while. And but like this year, overall, most winters, most of the more recent winters that I've experienced have been fairly mild. This one's pretty tough. But yeah. but whatever. It's cold, man. It's
Yeah.
just like I've got I think I get a week of vacation here in a couple. I can't remember when I actually took my vacation, but I've got a week of vacation coming up here in a week or 2 or 3. So yeah, I've got that. Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, being out in the cold like that sounds like quite the experience.
Yeah, it is. But I'm sure that you have other experiences you like to share.
That's right, XP Share, where we just share some experiences on the best of what we've been into lately. And sometimes the best isn't always good, but it is something that we get to share. So, it just comes caveated. Actually, the first experience that I want to share is actually quite good. It's something that, 30s males, they all have nostalgia for when they were kids, right? Well, I've been rewatching the X-Men animated TV show from 1992. And let me tell you, it's a good show. It's a good show. It's still, I think it still holds up. It's a lot of fun.
Probably.
It definitely, condenses a lot of things. But it's funny that you could have characters like, I didn't remember Wolverine being such a jerk, but he just doesn't. He's not the Hugh Jackman Wolverine. I'll put it that way. He's very much just like, I'm gonna do what I want. Get out of my way.
I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah. And
no, he's kind of a rude.
Yeah,
he's got a little bit of tude.
He is inconsiderate. While Cyclops is like the Boy Scout, trying to do things by the book, and so.
Such
anyways,
a nerd.
Yeah, it's fun though. It's fun. Also, everyone in the show is jacked, like completely jacked,
super jacked.
It's very funny, but I showed it to my kids, and my kids have enjoyed it too. So we're having a good time with X-Men, the animated series.
Cool.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Couple other things that I've been into. Actually, this one kind of surprised me. So, my wife and I started Financial Peace University. I would say that I'm pretty financially literate. I've watched a lot of Dave Ramsey. I've never actually gone through his program, but I get like what he's about. Really, it's just because there was an ad on Facebook that was like, "Hey, pastors, we want to give you FPU for free." So I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Sure, why not?" After consulting with my wife, and I figured, I think we're doing pretty good overall, but like, hey, we could still do better, and also just to get us both on the same page, because after a while, we just tend to drift. And so, what I will say is, while I don't agree with Dave on everything, I actually have a bunch of different credit cards. And anyways, I don't want to get into every single detail. While I disagree with him on some things, and while the format is a little self-helpy, kind of rah, like reminiscent of like a Tony Robbins-esque kind of feeling, it's actually quite effective in that. So while like I take it with a grain of salt that this is kind of cheesy, it's also like, you know what, it is actually kind of encouraging. And ultimately when he talks about gaining wealth so that you can give, so that you can be outrageously generous, like this is good. Like this is really good. So it's effective in what it does.
Yeah, I think Ramsey's really good on like the fundamentals and even like the philosophy behind it. Like I think, it's like I have pretty significant differences with Ramsey in a few areas.
Yeah,
but overall, I think that like it's good stuff. Yeah.
So
Like it's
so,
cool. Cool.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable, and I've also been surprised that my wife has been as into it as she has been. So it's been fun to kind of turn that on in the evening, and then we have discussions about it. I'm not one to dream about the future, and so that was kind of fun doing that together last night.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what could this look like? So that was fun. The last experience to share, the last piece of media that I've been into, over the past couple of episodes, I've recommended YouTube channels. I've got a YouTube channel to recommend with caveats because everything is caveated, right? It's a guy called Bob the Baptist on YouTube. He's a Reformed Baptist guy, but he's very much he's very goofy. He's probably younger than I am, probably early 30s, and gives off this vibe of Southern goofball in a tank top. And he looks kind of I don't know how to say it, schleppy, if that makes sense. Just kind of just his whole aura is he doesn't seem to know what he's doing, but if you watch his videos, it's oh, he actually does have a good head on his shoulders. And he's he's smarter than he lets on, if that makes sense. But he has some experiences that I have had growing up as well, sort of as he shares his story, getting into or being in a metal band when he was younger and getting into the Young Restless Reform movement, and then kind of graduating from that and seeing people go different ways from that. And so he's a bit of a kindred spirit. I don't actually agree with a good portion of the things that he presents, but I think he presents them very well. Obviously I'm the only Baptist on this podcast right now. So you're going to disagree with a good amount of what he says, because he is tried and true Reformed Baptist. And he makes the argument
he's super wrong.
He makes the argument that Reformed Baptist is an offshoot of Reformed. It's not an offshoot of Baptist. It's not a flavor of Baptist.
Yeah.
It's a flavor of Reformed. Which
I've seen.
That's actually a really good distinction.
I actually would agree with that.
Yeah. I hadn't heard it put that way before. So anyways, I set him out for recommendation while again, there's stuff that I don't come to the same conclusions that he does, but I enjoy hearing his perspective and the way that he gets to his conclusions. I can definitely agree with. And so I enjoy watching it, even if I disagree with some of it. So Bob the Baptist, there you go.
Cool.
He some of his stuff does play into what we'll be talking about today as well. He's got some thoughts on how does he say it, but basically being a Christian on the cloud. So thoughts of what it looks like to live out Christianity in the online sphere, because there are some distinctives there. So anyways.
Okay. Cool.
Some fun stuff.
Cool. As far as media, I wasn't sure. I haven't watched a ton here, but Parker recently turned me on to The Fat Electrician. He does history kind of essays, but he's kind of funny.
Okay. Yeah.
He's funny.
Not heard of him before.
The Fat Electrician. I have to. He's maybe not super family friendly. So
okay.
But listen, I think and this is something that at some point in time, I like a little bit of ribaldry, ribald, R-I-B-A-L-D.
Yes.
I like my humor a little earthy. How about that? We'll just go with that.
Okay. Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah. But so and it, for the last I was 8 years in the United States Army and Army Reserves. I drove truck. I worked in the machine shop. I worked for the United States Postal Service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you work as a chef for a time as well?
No.
Because I feel like that's another that could fit in there really well with the way that people talk to each other in these different professions.
Yeah, dude. I mean,
anyways.
I worked in fast food, which is about as close. Like, dude, food service, like I have to get, like, you got to give props to food service, but like, yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about though. Yeah. Like I've watched The Bear.
I haven't, but I've just heard that. Yeah.
No, I actually haven't watched The Bear.
Okay.
I've seen like an episode and I was like, okay, maybe someday I'll come back to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, so The Fat Electrician, heavily caveated, like
sure,
content may not be suitable for certain audiences. So that's like kind of whatever. But I finally did finish the Warlock Holmes books. Overall, I'm really positive on them.
Nice.
But they are heavily caveated.
Okay.
I think like sort of sitting back from it, again, probably not for younger audiences in a lot of ways. They are pretty goofy. And for the most part, they're a little morbid, but they're also lighthearted. It's goofy, like, right? So it's like Cthulhu, the Cthulhu mythos. So there are people who just get like exploded, and it's kind of like it's gags in the book and stuff like that. And so it's, you know, there's stuff like that, and there's, you know, Warlock Holmes, you know, yeah. And I really like the way that they ended the books. And it kind of like, it was a little somber and a little sad, and it was like, but it was also like pretty pitch perfect in a lot of ways too.
Nice.
Yeah, I really like those books. Just, they're not super heavily caveated, but it's like your mileage may vary. Yeah, it kind of, maybe this is a bit of a deep cut. I'm trying to think of a way to describe them. Okay, so it's Sherlock Holmes meets the Cthulhu mythos with a fairly healthy dose of Xanth. There's a series of books by a guy named Piers Anthony called like the Books of Xanth or something like that. And they're like, frankly, these anthologies, and they're bizarre and nonsensical. Like, it's kind of like but and Xanth is spelled Xanth.
Oh, okay.
But they're kind of old, they're whimsical, they're really kind of ridiculous. They're some of them are a little bit naughty. Not terribly naughty, but there's actually a lot of puns. You might like that.
Nice.
Kind of gross.
Nice.
But anyways,
they're already popping into my head. Xanthology.
A Xanthology.
Xanthanodu. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, good for you. I'm going to go commit ritual suicide after this. No, but it's like, so Sherlock Holmes meets the Cthulhu mythos meets a fairly healthy dose of Xanth, the Piers Anthony books. So yeah, they're kind of weird, they're kind of whimsical, but they're like, yeah, and they're a good time, but again, mileage may vary, and they're probably not suitable for younger audiences in some ways. So yeah, all that being said, lastly, but surely not leastly, I've been kind of like, my relationship with anime kind of happens in waves. And so there are times where I'm like really feeling anime, and there are other times where I'm not. And this is this anime, it's called Frieren. It was making the circuits. It's fairly recent. Like I only think it's a year or two old. The first season, the second season actually just started releasing episodes on Crunchyroll. But the first season is available on Netflix, which is where I watch it, and I really like it.
Oh, okay.
The premise is it's kind of awesome, actually. Like I might actually watch it a second time, just because, like, so the premise is kind of like the main character, the namesake of the show, Frieren, is this elf, and she's 1,000 years old, and she was part, like, in it, and where it's like she was part of a party of adventurers who defeated the Demon King, which was like the scourge of this continent, right?
Okay.
And the show pretty much picks up right, like basically after they've defeated the Demon King and they're in sort of like their triumphant return, and they go their separate ways, right? And so she's in the party with some humans and a dwarf, and she's an elf, and so she's gonna outlive them all. And it's kind of a really interesting sort of like, so there's this like fantastical background to it where, and there's like some cool fights where like she's fighting demons. So far in the show, like the demons are just bad. They are like, and that's kind of refreshing where it's like, nope, they're just kind of monsters. And yeah, cause anyways, but, there's some really cool, she's like this really super powerful elf wizard sorceress or whatever. There's some really cool like sequences. Like one of the last episodes has this like fight scene that was awesome and almost gave me epilepsy. It was just like just these absolutely insane visual sequences where it's just like they're having like this magic battle kind of thing. I was like, what? Like, you know, just like I felt it was almost like a Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of moment where it's like I felt like my face melting a little bit. Like, but yeah, I really like Frieren. Really like it. I kind of got onto it, and I just kind of binged it more or less. So, but yeah, it's cool. It's really, really good. And I think it's worth a watch. So yeah.
Cool. Nice.
But that is all I've been into as far as I'm checking. I know this is awesome radio. I'm checking my text from my wife.
Gotcha. Well, but if that's all you have to share in terms of media,
non-video game media.
That's right. But we are a video game podcast. So why are we talking about video games? We should talk about those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you been playing lately, my guy?
Yeah. I've been playing a few things. So I've continued in Theater Rhythm, Final Bar Line. Most recently I've been playing through Final Fantasy 14's music in that. And 14 has 32 tracks in it, so it's a ton. And the music in 14 is very different. I guess it spans a bunch of different types of music, but there was this really cool track that I played the other night that the song got stuck in my head, but also because I didn't finish it. Like I would get almost like a fifth of the way to the end, or fifth of the way out of there, and then I lost like 3 times in a row, and so the song gets stuck in your head. I don't remember the name of the song, but there's actually vocals to some of these songs, and it was something like forward and back and forward and back and forward, take one step forward or something like that. Anyways, it's a fun song, and the drums in the song are really cool. But anyways, Theater Rhythm, Final Bar Line. That's, like I said, I've typically play that in the evenings, like as my kids are getting ready for bed. So they'll watch me, and we'll kind of not play it together, but they'll kind of watch as I play it, and, be rooting for me, and it's fun, man. As I get older, dude, rhythm games are they're my jam. I really like rhythm games, and this one has a cool system, and I'm enjoying it. A lot. But there's still quite a ways to go to actually like finish all the tracks, because there's like almost 400. It's stupid, but it's good. So it's fun. Okay. Also, what I've been playing kind of on my own time is Sea of Stars, making slow but steady progress. Maybe putting in like half an hour every day, something like that. And it is a charming game. I don't know that I have too much more to say that I haven't already said. I think it's got a really the artwork, or excuse me, just the pixel art in the world and stuff. It's very vibrant and colorful, and there's a lot of thought put into it, and it's pretty cool. There have been some twists and turns in the story. I will say that the kingdom, the village of Mirth was just set up. And so there's that.
Oh.
And
Okay.
and the elder made a decision. I'll put it that way. So I don't want to give anything away. That was kind of surprising. But that's where I'm at in the game, so I might be halfway through it. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, it's pretty good. It was pretty good.
When you're done with that, I think we'll probably have to record
an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am excited to see, like, I'm enjoying it, okay? I'm enjoying the game. It got what I felt like rave reviews, and I'm not quite feeling that. Like, it does not, it's definitely inspired by games like Chrono Trigger, but when you compare it to Chrono Trigger, like, I'm not getting the same, like, I see it, and it is, like, I'm enjoying it, and so I don't want to put it down, but I'm not sure where. I'm waiting for it to blow my mind, and it hasn't yet. That's what it is.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just gonna. What I'm gonna say is I don't know that it's going to.
Okay.
Like,
Cool.
And
that's fine because I'm enjoying it.
I really love that game, but as I sort of sit back, I loved, because I was like a backer or something, like I like kickstarted it, or
So are you in the crypt somewhere? Because I did just go to the crypt.
I think I did like the second round of, like, because it was like it did like the kickstart, but then it was like, but also if you still want to like back this or whatever, you can. It's just like, so I don't know that I'm in the crypt. I might be. I don't know, dude. It was a long time ago, and I forget.
And the crypt is stinking enormous. So I was just
huge. Yeah. So if I am in the crypt, I have no idea where I am, and if I got, because apparently, like, I think you got an email or something. Anyways, like, so it's like, hey, you can find your statue or whatever in the crypt. And I was like, don't care.
Okay.
I don't know if I got that email or whatever. So, I really liked Sea of Stars. I think it was something special. And I think it has, like, what I'm going to say is I think it does have like moments where it really shines, and there's some really special things about it. But overall, like, because like, they kind of poise it as like the second coming of Chrono Trigger, and it never quite crosses that finish line for me. Where it's
there's something about it where, and again, it's very good. I'm enjoying it, but it still gives off indie game vibes to me. There's something there where it's like, the story, it seems good. Like I'm having fun, but it's also kind of jokey. It doesn't, I guess it does get serious at moments, but yeah. And there are some things it seems like it's leading up to, which can be cool. So, yeah, it does still. It has very good indie game vibes.
Yeah,
right
I think it's pretty great in a lot of ways. I just and I'll be like, I'm not trying to like, but I'll be kind of interested to see what you think when you're all done with it. Like, I was really glad I played it. Like, kind of like finished it and kind of moved on, and it's a really pretty great game. But yeah,
sweet. Well, we will talk about that more because I still need to beat it. Well, again, I want to say I'm assuming I'm like halfway through. We'll see. Lastly, a game that I have also been putting some time into is Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And this game is total chaos. And it's crazy all you can do. It's it's just such a spectacle of a game. And again, 30-year-old dude in his 30s. I'm not 30 years old. I'm closer to 40 than I am 30. And the nostalgia swells with this game too, because there was a Cece's Pizza when I was young in Austin, Texas, that had an arcade, obviously an arcade
section. Is that
section.
the pizza buffet place?
Yes.
Those ruled.
It was so much fun. Pizza's not good, but it was only a few bucks. Back when I was young, it was all you can eat for only $2.99. You paid a little bit more for soda, but even still, it's only a few bucks, and they also have dessert pizza, which is great.
Yeah,
Anyways.
Dude, yeah.
They had an arcade, and I distinctly remember the Simpsons arcade there. Okay, that was always fun to play. But they also had Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and you could just button mash, and cool things happened on the screen. So, and that's exactly what this game is. And there's a way to play this game and get good at this game. So don't get me wrong. There are underlying systems.
The ceiling on the skill ceiling on this game is insane. Like a good MVC2 player will just destroy you.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's not entirely balanced. There are characters that are just objectively like the best characters. If you know what you're doing, you can like infinite people really easy. Just get them in like a 120 hit combo and just destroy their life bar without them even giving them a chance.
I had friends who were like that, and which like I love that game. I was not good at that game, but it's like, I would just like my one buddy, and he was actually my one buddy's younger brother. This kid was like a savant, but like, I remember one time he was playing, I was like, oh, I love this game. And I got in there and we were playing a little bit, and I was like, I don't like playing it with you. Like, I was like, I love MVC2. I was like, but not with you. Yeah. Like, cause it was just like, he was so good. And I was just like, dude, that's ridiculous.
And it gives you so many different options as well. It is a unique game with the tag system and bringing in your assists like all the time. You can bring them in, very quickly. But there's a risk reward because they can also get hurt. And so, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the game. I've played through. It's the arcade version, so there's not much to do outside of just playing through the 7 stages and then the final boss. And I've done that a couple times now with a few different lineups. The first time was with Spider-Man, Venom, and Mega Man. My children chose them, and they were all pretty good characters. I'll put it that way.
Spidey and Mega Man, I remember being really good. I don't remember much about Venom. I'm sure he was probably pretty solid.
He's especially good for the final boss, because you can get behind him really easily. Of course, if I actually just played more in the air, then I'm sure he would be easy. But I don't typically play in the air because I'm not good. I just have fun with it. And so, Anyways, so technically, because I've rolled credits on the game a couple times now, I'm taking the -1 for the game for the year. So I'm at -3. I'm sure, like Power Stone, I'll be playing it more throughout the year. But I'm going to go ahead and take the point. So that's what I've been playing, and I've been having a dang good time with those games. What have you been playing, Nate?
More Destiny 2, a little bit of Link's Awakening. I did finish the demo for Dragon Quest 7, the reimagining.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That demo is pretty meaty. It's about 3 or 4 hours long.
Okay.
I think it does a pretty good job of like. And so there are a couple of things like I'm pretty sure that progress does transfer. So if you play the demo, you like it, and you buy the game, you don't have to start all over again. You can just sort of like import your save and sort of pick up where you left off. When the game actually comes out, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty special, and so I recommend the demo. It's like, and I think it gives you enough of a taste of what the game sort of is to let you know if you're going to be into it or not. And so I really liked it. It's Dragon Quest, and it seems like a pretty cool sort of revisit to what I think is like kind of one of the harder games to just get into. I think, again, and we talked a little bit last episode, but it's like that 100+ hours to beat the original version. And then like, again, it's like, it's like 70 or 80 hours to beat it for the DS version. And it's just like, I think that I'm really hopeful that they bring that down to like, I think if you can bring it down to like 50 hours, for like a playthrough, like maybe 60, like you're kind of pushing it, but I don't know, man. But I don't know. We'll see. What I did play from the demo, I thought was good. It's Dragon Quest. So I've got one here, and this is kind of like a weird. So I'm on this whole thing where it's like I'm not buying games this year. Like that's like my whole thing. And I had to make like a bit of an exception, and I'm not counting this because I didn't buy it for myself, and I'm not playing it for myself. Byron is fascinated with monster trucks. Like like hardcore, like that's like, like the first 3 years of his life were defined by choo-choos and Thomas the Train, right? And Thomas is still like present in the house. Like there's still a lot of like Thomas stuff that he really likes, but lately he has been going like full on like monster trucks are it, like, and so we've just gone hard and like hard in the paint on monster trucks. And my wife the other day, she sends me a text and she's like, this is $20 at Walmart. Can we get it? And it was a game. We got the Switch version. It's actually available on PlayStation Extra, I believe. As well, but we got the Switch version, and it's called Monster Jam Showdown. And so their Monster Jam is like Gravedigger and those trucks, like the big monster trucks, and they do all the crazy stunts and stuff. And so I have been playing it. I bought that, and I have been playing it for my son pretty much expressly. Like I play it so that he can watch it, and then like sometimes he'll play, but I'm also playing to unlock trucks for him because of course, like, it's like, he's not going to be able to, like, he has like some favorites. So like he loves the zombie truck. So like that I was like looking through, and I was kind of like seeing which ones I can. And so it's like, I'm going to unlock his favorites, and then, kind of just like, I'll play with him. I'm not playing it for me. Like it's like one of those games where it's like, I'm playing it for him. And so I'm not counting that, but, and it's fine. It's like I would just say like, it's a pretty like 7 out of 10 game where it's like, it's good. It's fine. It reminds me kind of like Tony Hawk, but a lot more physics based. So like, there's races and stuff like, and the actual racing is like not great. It's fine. I'm playing this on like super easy because I'm like, I am not getting sweaty on this game. Like, again, I'm only playing it for my son,
so that
so that he can sort of have like monster truck, like, stuff on the screen. But there's also like stunt competitions. Cause like, I don't know if you've ever seen like Monster Jam videos, but like, it's like, they're doing like crazy, like stunts off of like they basically bring in an arena, they fill it full of dirt, and they build a bunch of ramps and stuff. And then the trucks do like stunts, and those stunts are actually like scored and stuff like that. So it's like, so that part of the game is actually like Tony Hawk, but a lot more physicsy. So it's like it's kind of like this arcadey thing where, and you can do some like drifting and donuts, and you can chain, it's like Tony Hawk, but not as good. That part of it, where it's like, this game would actually be a lot more fun if it was a little more like it leaned into the arcadiness, but it's like, it is like a little too like almost like technical, where I'm like,
interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think it's great. Like,
sure,
it's like, I would give it like, a 6 or a 7. 6, 7.
You did that to yourself.
Yeah. I would put it in sort of like that middling to good kind of like, it's fine. Okay. It's like, I can see where the loop is kind of, it's not like I hate playing it, right? But it's like, left to my own devices, I wouldn't be playing this. I'm pretty much playing it expressly for Byron. And so like, I have played enough to unlock Zombie, which is, like I said, one of his favorite trucks. Okay. I'm going to unlock some of the other trucks for him, but like, yeah.
And he's having fun watching?
Yeah. And it's like, he'll watch, and sometimes he'll want the controller.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of, when it doesn't do, he's at that like very easily discouraged toddler phase.
Okay.
It's like, if it doesn't do what he wants it to, he kind of like gets really upset. And so it's like, we're working on sort of building up some like perseverance and sort of like, okay, buddy, like let daddy help you. This is how we do this,
Mm-hmm.
We're also not giving him tons of time, but like, yeah, he has fun. He likes watching. He's like, he actually just likes watching you like do stunts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and run around. So like, yeah, it's fine. Like, but yeah. So aside from that, I haven't beaten anything. I haven't really picked up anything. And so it's like, I'm still at a goose egg because like I said, I'm really not counting Monster Jam Showdown. Like it's,
yeah.
It's like, as soon as he's like old enough to play that on his own, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, it'll be like, I'll jump in with him. Like, but like, but it was like $20 at Walmart, and it was like, it's like so.
Yeah. I get it. I have children of my own, and
the things you do for the kids.
Right. Thankfully, we've got a library. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, we've definitely bought games just because of the kids. But like we have gotten. Why can't I think of his stinking name? Baby Shark, the Baby Shark game before. Back when the kids were younger. The Bluey game. We've gotten that one from the library. So games that are not good games, but they'll
I've heard that the Bluey game is like, it's fine. Like, and that's about like, it's like fine. It's pretty middling. Right. He's not, like I said, he's not super, like he likes trains. He likes monster trucks. And that kind of bums me out. Cause like some of like the stuff that he used to love, like he'll still watch some of it sometimes, but like, whatever.
He's moved on.
It's kind of like, man, I'd like to watch Spidey again. He's just like, I'm not watching Spidey. He's like, I need you to put on monster truck videos now, Dad. Or in his words, Maha truck. Maha truck.
Maha truck.
Maha truck.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's fun. But yeah, so no changes for me as far as that goes. Okay. And if this is your first time listening or watching the show, hi, welcome. Sorry.
Hey.
Glad to have you.
Yes.
And all that. But you might be saying, what are these numbers? Like Nate said 0, Josh said -3. What is it? It's the Backlog Beatdown. You're listening to the Backlog Breakdown. There is a distinction. Backlog Beatdown is meta that we run all year long. The TLDR is basically like, play the stuff you already own, drive your score down. Negative point for every game you beat, right? It's like subtracting from that pile of shame, subtracting from that, right?
Yes.
The backlog. When you buy games, you add to it. And there's a little bit more nuance. There's a little bit more going on there, but that's the too long didn't listen, didn't read kind of thing. If you're interested in that at all, like we still haven't finalized the 2026 rules yet, but come hang out, reach out to one of us. We'll send you a copy of the rules, or just, come over to our Discord server. We have a channel 2026 Beatdown in the Discord server, and it's pinned. The rules are in there somewhere, but yeah, it's cool. We like it. It's kind of helpful for our own thing, but like, other people sort of think it's okay too. But all that being said, other things that you might want to check out. It's, if you are listening or watching this podcast, you might actually like what we're doing. If you, you like what we're doing, of course, do the rating and reviewing, do the subscribe and share, right? Tell your friends all the things, like, whatever your podcatcher is or whatever platform, you're like, give us a thumbs up, do the things, what they are, and they're helpful. That would be super cool. if you've already done all those things and you want to go a little bit above and beyond, we do have a Patreon like so many other podcasts out there. You can look at it as a tip jar. Yeah, you could. Or you could look at it as, and I think this is the more useful, is a way to partner with us as we sort of seek to build this thing out, as we seek to equip and encourage the church to engage with video games wisely and well. You can look at it as a way to partner with us, and there are benefits to that. So each of our patrons gets early and uncut access to each and every episode. They get access to our recording schedule in advance, and they have a little more influence. We're actually going to be finishing up, I think, well, it'll be the bite size before this. I'm pretty sure that we'll talk about patron picks. Like they get to choose some of the content or help shape some of the content. So we're going to be, that's by the time this comes out, that you guys will already know that. But because of the way, it's timey-wimey nonsense. But we're recording this in advance. So yeah. But all that being said, so yeah, there's also an exclusive podcast called The Bro Hang. It tends to be a lot more freeform. It's a mixed bag. Sometimes it's irreverent and silly and stupid, and it's basically just fart jokes. Or
but this time
the intellectual equivalent.
If you're interested, I talked about how I was on a jury last week.
Yeah.
If you're interested on the details of that ridiculousness,
the deets,
I will be sharing that in the Bro Hang.
So, yeah. It's kind of whatever. So yeah, if that's like, if any of that sounds appealing, or again, you're just looking for a way to partner with us to go a little bit above and beyond, that'd be super cool. We'd love to have you. And yeah. Lastly, but surely not leastly, we are proud members of the Playwell Network. And I'm going to sort of, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't think we have an ad spot for him yet, but we do want to, and I'm going to sort of, we do want to welcome the newest member of the Playwell Network, our friend Quick Mark from over at Quick Play. He's decided to partner with the rest of the degenerates and sort of endeavoring to, exploring the ideas of what does it mean to play well, and so, yeah. Welcome aboard, Quick Mark. And if you get us an ad spot, we can throw it in there and it'd be super cool. And then you could prove me wrong that we do have an ad spot for you. But yeah, anyways, all that being said, we love those guys. Of course, there's Paul Lytle, the techno funk boy, Wesley Ray, the Henshin dad, and the wonder from down under, Nicholas Porch. All of them, basically create content exploring and wrestling with those ideas. We love them. We like their content, and we think you ought to check it out. So here's a word from one of them.
Hey, wow. It's radical that you're listening to this ad. I'm Nick, the high-energy host of Nothing New Under the Porch. This podcast has been going through the golden years, and it's probably getting closer to rock bottom now. But that's no reason not to listen. You'll learn heaps about me, about playing games well, about international guests through insightful interview questions, and you'll learn about games that don't exist. So come join me under the porch.
Please listen, I'm desperate, I promise you'll like it. I'm desperate and hungry, so listen.
Hey guys, Nate here. Real quick, want to do a little bit of a pickup here and talk, just provide some clarity. So in this episode, Josh and I are going to talk about Fable 2 briefly. The inciting incident for this was sort of Knight's Path and sort of the tweet that sort of, kind of does what everything on social media does. It kind of like caused a little bit of a flare up and it seems to have sort of died off. provided interesting conversation for all of 15, 20 minutes and then kind of died off. But also there was a bit of a counterpoint being raised with like, Fable was, also being sort of like talked about during this kind of time period too, because some things came out about the new Fable stuff. News came out about the new Fable game. And there were a couple clips and everything, and we reference some of that. Like we talk about, there was a clip specifically that Josh mentions, and then we kind of talk about for maybe a minute. But what we want to say is like, and someone kind of like gave us a little bit of like feedback and sort of that there's more going on with the Fable stuff. It's not just like, oh, hey, yeah, there's like one clip of the the dude with the effeminate gait. It's more than that. It's like even sort of that initial reveal trailer and sort of like, and we recognize that there are things in some of this that like raise at least questions for a lot of people as far as that. And we aren't trying to like cast any aspersions on that. But the point for us we weren't trying to have an in-depth conversation about like all the things that we think could be problem areas with Fable, the remake. And we weren't trying to even offer any sort of like defense of that. We were using it as an example to sort of talk about, again, like behaviors and just trends that we've noticed in gaming spaces and in dialogue in those in online spaces in games enthusiasm. So that being said, we kind of wanted to offer as a point of clarity. Like, again, we understand that there's a lot more to sort of some of this stuff than like we actually addressed. We also don't think that that's necessarily the point. Kind of like we're just kind of, again, we want to use that, and we want to sort of, again, one of the things that Josh and I are trying to do with this podcast is encourage and equip the church. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do specifically with things like this is we're trying to elevate the conversation, and we're trying to get people to sort of ask a little bit more questions about how they engage, with other people in these spaces, how they engage with medium, etc. And so I just wanted to, I really wanted to stress that, we reference it. We understand that there's a lot more to cover. We weren't trying to have a conversation about Fable or even the problems sort of surrounding, like, that could be like not Fable, but just like the leftist lean of just the industry in general. Like that is probably a topic that at some point in time we will talk about. But we weren't trying to do that in this episode. In this episode, we're trying to sort of encourage and challenge our brothers and sisters in faith to, be a little bit more mindful and discerning and wise. And it's not to say like, hey, yeah. So it's not to say that we see like we've seen any like, glaring, like really heinous stuff from brothers and sisters. We would talk to those people if we thought those were problems. It was more of just like, we thought it would be an interesting conversation piece. But we did also want to just make sure that we just like going, listening back to that content a little bit and back through that content a little bit and sort of thinking about it. I was like, I talked to Josh, and we just wanted to make sure that like, we sort of provided this additional bit of like clarity here, where it's just like, hey, we recognize there's more here. That's not really the point. That's not what we're trying to do. We were more or less trying to use some of that, the circumstances surrounding these things as touch points, saying like, hey, here's actually some examples where we can see some of this going on, and we want to maybe avoid or, rethink how we approach some of this stuff. So that being said, thanks so much for listening, and I'll let you get back to the episode. And we're back. So, Josh, I think we probably talked about it a little bit, and we're going to make the assumption that our audience is literate, but we're going to be talking about,
it's a good assumption.
And it's sort of like, the title of the episode is engaging wisely and well, and that's kind of a riff on our tagline. We want to equip and encourage the church to engage with the medium of video games wisely and well, right? Or wisely and responsibly. And so, and kind of what we're gonna do is like, this is I don't think this is the first time we've ever tackled this particular topic, but it has been a few years, and I think it's something that, like, one, I think it's just helpful for me too to sort of come back and revisit these things, because it's like,
Okay.
I just ate a bunch of peanut M&Ms, so yeah.
Wonderful.
Oh, dude, that's a S tier candy. And if you don't agree with me, you are wrong. You're allowed to be wrong, but you are wrong objectively. But anyways, there's kind of like, I have a, so it kind of, there's something that I was thinking about, like, so last full episode, we talked about Caleb Hammer and how I like his content, but he's actually kind of mean. And I think that's kind of what appeals to me about him, is like, it kind of like, there's a little bit of that like pettiness that I almost wish I could indulge in, and that at times I do indulge in. And I think, like, it's one of those things where when you get online, you can't help but sort of be, I don't know, surrounded and sort of just like, almost like, it almost feels like at times you're drowning in. There's a lot of like negativity in online spaces, and some, and again, it's just kind of like, but some of that is just, it is what it is. Like, it's kind of like people, it's kind of like, we were talking about it, and it's just like, sometimes a thing is really great and kind of good, and then people get involved, and it's like, oh, this is why we can't have nice things. Yeah. And, but, and I guess it's, like I said, this is primarily like, it's kind of like, I want to talk about this because I think it's a good reminder for myself, first and foremost, sort of as we engage with the culture, because like, that's what this is about. This is about engaging with video game and gaming enthusiasm culture in online spaces. And kind of asking the question is, how should Christians conduct themselves in these things?
Yeah.
Because the reality is, like, there's a lot of division in video games, in video game enthusiast spaces.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of ways, the medium has primarily been shaped by leftist ideologies lately, that progressivism and leftist ideas have sort of like been running pretty much unopposed in those spaces, whether it's through the different sort of journalism endeavors, or if it's even like, just, I think as a general rule, a lot of video games feel, the term that gets bounced around is like, there's a lot of like woke ideology inserted into these things, and kind of like there's a lot of, and there's been like the Sweet Baby Inc. stuff and all of that. And I think it's kind of like, it's one of those things, one of the most recent examples is sort of like, there was a recent sort of dust up, and it actually sort of, it showed up in our Discord server, but as well, but it's like, and we've kind of had some light conversations with friends behind the scenes a little bit about some of this stuff, but like, there was a little bit of a dust up on Twitter, and about there's a game, I think it's called a Knight's Path.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were doing the social media stuff, and they're like, check out our new game and blah, 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 blah. And somebody kind of asked the questions like, hey, this is really cool. Will there be gay romances? And actually, I think this is important because like, there's a couple things here. Is like, the account that asked this question has like 2 followers at the time or something like that.
Okay.
It did not seem like but anyways, and and we'll get there. I'll come back to that because like I think there's an angle to this that needs to be examined. So and the devs basically responded, or whoever's running that social media platform said, probably be good to just, I'm not looking it up. That's like, I don't care. Basically said, because it's like, they basically said like, we really care. What we care about is making a good game and solid gameplay. And we don't care about your agenda. And that kind of, caused a little bit of a dust up. And it ended up resulting with, last time I checked, I think it was like over 100,000 pre-orders or wish lists on Steam page.
Okay.
And like I said, it did kind of, there was some conversation in our Discord server about this. And it kind of like, in contrast to like, Fable was brought up, the Fable reboot was brought up as a point of contrast. High Guard, I think, kind of got tossed in the mix. There's another game.
Okay.
Geez. So many chords. I'm just yanking stuff all around. There's another game that actually sort of, what is that?
Is it the one with the bowl cut?
The bowl cut
okay.
androgynous person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a boy or a girl. I'm not sure what's going on there. And the sort of the I think somebody described the other character that it engages with as an emo Tom Bombadil.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I respect that. But like this stuff kind of comes up and none of this stuff exists in a void, right?
Sure.
And so I think there's some like groundwork that we need to be like, just sort of looking at the inciting incident for me, sort of looking at this and kind of asking questions about it and wrestling with this. It's like, there's not really two wolves inside of me, but I'm coming at this from a couple of different angles. I wanted to say that, but there aren't two wolves in me. There's one where it's like, listen, I don't think the Knight's Path devs tweet was that incendiary. Like it was like, basically like, it's one of those things where it probably could have been stated differently to be a little less whatever, but also like, I think because like, obviously they've been called bigots and fascists and of course, homophobes and all the other stuff. And, for some people that actually, they're like, yes, like give me, take my money. Like they're like, I will buy your game now. Just to kind of like stick my thumb in, a leftist's, eyeball, collectively speaking, but I don't know, like, but it just kind of got me thinking about how we as Christians should engage with it, or how even like I should engage with this. And again, like none of this exists in a vacuum. So, the tweet was actually, it was kind of refreshing, and there was like, there was some other stuff. There was a tweet, they showed off like some concept art for the female character. And she was just very, an attractive looking woman. And it was just like a headshot kind of thing. And so, and of course, like like this stuff just always brings out the best in people. And by the best, I mean the exact opposite, because we can't have adult conversations about things. And we have to sort of just run down all sorts of weird rabbit holes and just, it's almost like a contest sometimes, I think, to show off like, hey, I'm a bigger idiot than you are. And it's like, well, okay. But what I was saying is like, going back to the thing is like, it was kind of refreshing to see somebody kind of unapologetically say like, yeah, we're just trying to make a good game. Like I said, I think there's a lot of unknowns about this game. Like I've got to just sort of like, I've seen a little bit. We don't know anything about these people. As far as I can tell, there's no real pedigree involved. Like, it's just a bit of a passion project. And so like, it's like the jury's out on this, but I think like that kind of like just, and again, it's all the conversation around all of this and just the general demeanor and sort of like just the general online talk around all of this. Like, cause of course it's like, and again, like some of the touch points for surrounding this conversation where people like sort of like there was stuff coming out about Fable and people are like, kind of just, and I think it's like people, it's the whole actively wanting these games to fail and some of the vitriol that sort of shows up. And it's like, on one hand, it's like, hey, if you don't like something, you don't like something. And if you have a like kind of a bad feeling about like a concept trailer or whatever, like that's fine too.
Sure.
But I do think there's something in there to like to wade in and wrestle with just as far as like general conduct online. And like how should Christians, if Christians should be involved in this stuff at all, like how should we sort of conduct ourselves in these conversations? And so it's like, I kind of pitched this to you. It was a little bit of a last minute pivot kind of thing. Well, we didn't really have anything on the agenda, but I was like, hey, this is kind of interesting. And it might get us in trouble. And that's kind of fun. It might make some people mad. And so, okay. And it might not, I don't know. Sure. But I guess, like I said, the question here is like sort of looking at all this stuff. I think it begs some other questions, but it's like, how should we as Christians kind of engage with this stuff?
Yeah. So. Yeah. With gaming culture in general, but especially when it's used, I think in these different ways to kind of score points with either side, either team. So whether it's you automatically love something because it's bucking the trend of current social mores, put it that way, or whether you automatically hate something because you see it kind of going along those same lines. Yeah, there's something that, and we're not saying don't have opinions. But the question is, how do we engage as Christians in a way that's wise? And how do we refrain from sinning with our digital tongues, I would say also, because I think we have a tendency to do that. And I say we as like the collective we of kind of getting caught up in things. And I think it's similar actually to one of the things that we talked about when we first started the podcast, the Backlog Breakdown, is that we don't want to get caught up in the hype cycles of games and just pick up new games because, hey, it's the cool, new, shiny thing. And so we should plunk down, however much it is, $60, $50, when we started the podcast, whatever. For the newest, the latest, and the greatest, when we actually have a bunch of games already to play. I think similarly to getting caught up in the hype cycle, we can similarly get caught up in just kind of rooting for our own team, ideological teams. And so that can cause us to rashly, I think, say things and jump to conclusions. And so I think that's what we wanted to talk about today, is just being wise in the way that we engage with these things. Because on the one hand, I don't think there's anything wrong with attempting to read between the lines of certain things. So if I'm supposed to hate Fable because of the way that a male character walks in a teaser, okay. It's not wrong to notice that's not very realistic to the way that men walk, and it's kind of feminizing this character. It's not wrong to notice that. In fact, I think that would be astute to a certain degree. However, I don't know that automatically means the game is going to be a dumpster fire, or that we should necessarily root for the game to fail at this point.
It actually, like, stuff like that actually communicates very, very little about the actual substance and content of the game. Like, I mean, it tells you that in that clip, the main character has like has an effeminate gait.
Mhm.
That's what it tells you. It tells you nothing else. Everything else that you're drawing from that is inference,
Mhm.
you know, and speculation. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the point, is that like, I think wisdom actually requires us to maybe step back, ask a lot more questions. Like, you know, we've talked about it before, but Alex from the long defunct podcast, The Rugged Marriage, at one point in time had like a basic rule about engaging with social media. And it was like, I'm pretty sure it's like he waited 3 days, at least 3 days.
Mhm.
And part of that was to like give himself time to process. So to step back from the emotional response, like
Mhm.
logically think through things, process these things, right? And then also in that time, a lot of times, like sometimes more information comes out, right?
Right.
It's like that. There's that proverb. It's like the one who speaks first, he seems like he's in the right. And I'm paraphrasing this, but then
Mhm.
it's like, but then the other party speaks up and suddenly more comes out. And
Mhm.
it's like, you know, and I think that whether unintentionally, I'm going to just sort of like, I think that sometimes like we can fall into like sort of almost like gossip and slander in
Mhm.
some of these things, because we sort of we've fallen prey to these anti-hype cycles, right? Where it's like so much of the reality that we live in is like sociopolitically charged. Like there's an agenda behind everything anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and there's this like scoring points on either side of the ideological line is actually the goal, right? And to a
Mhm.
certain extent, like it makes a little bit of sense. Like, again, like, you know, it started out like the games media, the games industry, like is like, they're very unapologetic about their leftist leaning, right? And that's fine. Like
Sure.
have your ideas, like have your ideals, have your whatever. But they're all in a lot of ways hostile to centrist or even right-leaning sort of people on the ideological and socio-political spectrum, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the recent example was, you know, with the death of Charlie Kirk, there was that dev on Ghost of Yote who was over on Blue Sky,
Right.
like, I don't know what they call their tweets over on Blue Sky, who was posting really like nasty things. Like people were celebrating the brutal assassination of a man in front of his child.
Yeah.
Right. And like, that's gross. That's repugnant. Right. And that's kind of like the climate that we're in. And so there's a part where it's like I want to be careful in saying like, hey, I think we actually need to make principled stands. Like
Mhm.
you and I have
Yeah.
talked about this. Like
Yeah.
there are certain types of games, certain very particular games that were like, we don't think we can play this because it violates our conscience because of X, Y, and Z. Like games that sort of, you know, but yeah. And so obviously we want people to be conscientious. We want them to be principled. We want them to make principled decisions, but this doesn't, a lot of this, the rhetoric surrounding some of this stuff doesn't feel principled. It feels reactionary. It feels like sort of it's like buying into the game, the socio-political games. And I think especially like one of the things I'm concerned about, and some people will be like, why are you, okay, and this is like, some people like, maybe I'm just sort of like kind of cutting heads. Some people are like, why are you picking on the church? Like, why are you picking on your fellow Christians? The thing is, I love my brothers and sisters more than I love the world. And so I'm going to be a little firmer with them because I expect more out of them. And because I think like the expectations, like, you know, it's like you judge more hard, like we talk about video games, and sometimes like the video games we love the most are sometimes the video games we go after the hardest. Like,
Sure.
now sometimes the video games we hate the most definitely feel like our wrath. But it's kind of like, it's like I'm speaking up and maybe I'm picking on, you know, our brothers and sisters here to a certain extent, but it's because I care more about them. Like,
Yeah.
they're my brother, they're my sister. And, you know, and so it's like, I'm going to issue words of caution or warning or whatever. And like, So, and I don't want it to seem like I'm picking on anybody here. This is more of just like sort of, again, we've seen broader trends, and this is sometimes even sort of like, I think this is a useful check against my own proclivities, where it's like, cause I lurk in social media spaces because I can't trust myself to be civil at times. And I think that, so, and again, it's like, and a lot of this makes sense, like, because like you want to make a principled stand. And like, frankly, it's like, sometimes you just want to get like that hit back. Like sometimes you just want the other side to take the L, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it just feels like we have been like, getting served a bunch of L's at times. And I think like all of these are reasonable and rational, and it's like, and it's not completely outside the pale of like, I'm not saying that like all of these things are like wicked or bomb. Like, I'm just saying like, it makes sense, but I also think there's a little bit more to like dig in and wrestle with here, and questions to be asked. And so, because I think sometimes what happens is that you're responding to evil, or you're responding to injustice, or you're responding to wickedness, or you're responding to wrong ideas or bad ideas, but you overcorrect. And, there's a phrase in sort of, again, the socio-political circles. It's like, no enemies to the right, no enemies to the left. Right. And so it means like everybody who's sort of like in this camp, that's our ally, and we can lock arms with them. And I'm going to sort of say, I don't think that's actually the case. I think there are a lot of people who sort of are on the more conservative leaning side of things that actually the church should probably actively avoid, whether these people are grifters or whether they're just sort of like, they're secular humanists with conservative tendencies, who, like I'll give an example. Like there's a guy, and he's kind of Twitter infamous. He goes by the handle Grums, Grummz, right? Okay. And there are things that Grums has said that I actually think are pretty agreeable. Like, and he's kind of, his shtick is he goes after the leftist and the liberal sort of ideologues in the video game industry. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. He also objectifies women to a ridiculous degree. Like, sort of relishes. He's one of these dudes who his big gripe is like, video game girls aren't hot. And then like he celebrates something like Stellar Blade, where, and like Eve's skin suit in Stellar Blade. And it's like, and it's kind of like, we don't co-sign with that. Do you know what I'm saying here? It's like, yeah, we can agree with some of this stuff over here, but like, we can't walk in lockstep with somebody who's going to objectify women, who's going to sort of promote lust, and, and it's like, we don't co-sign on that. We don't co-sign like, with, and so it's kind of like, I think for Christians who are seeking to be salt and light and engage wisely, it's like, there's a lot of nuance and some like, there's minefields to be avoided. And there's also like, we have to be, I think maybe a little more, I don't know, just like there's a lot more involved. And so it's like, again, this is like kind of like the conversation that I think it's a conversation worth having. So, I don't have, I don't know that I have a ton of, like, I have two ideas I kind of want to, like three possibly. Okay. And like, I have three actually passages in scripture that I kind of want to bring up. Okay. So the two are sort of, admonishments that I would say. Let me just kind of pull this up here. So I want to bring up two passages in scripture here. Ephesians 4:29. And I don't think anybody's going to like, these aren't going to be like, these are fairly commonly cited. So, but Ephesians 4:29 says, let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, that it may give grace to those who hear. Okay. Building up as the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. And then Philippians 4:8, which is one that's like, I think it's been a primary verse for this podcast in a lot of ways. Like in one of the things like, but finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Right. And so it's like, and these are two, I think, of the bigger ones, but like Hebrews also, it says like like with your speech, build each other up. Like, I think there is a general pattern in scripture where we are told to be builders, or sort of encourage it. We are like, our speech is to be gracious. And, it's like, if possible, we're to be peacemakers. And I think that means that we have to actively sort of avoid being unnecessarily incendiary. Like, and maybe at times we have to soften our language. Now, it doesn't mean that we compromise. It doesn't mean that we call something that we don't call something that is evil good, but it does mean that maybe like, hey, if there's a nicer, a kinder, gentler way for us to say something, maybe we ought to consider that. I think one of the things, like going back to Alex's sort of recommendations, is like sometimes the consideration is like, do I need to say anything at all? And it's like, sometimes I think the better part of, discretion is the better part of valor, and so it's like sometimes it's just smarter to just not wade in and kind of like, and part of this is that, like, I think that I kind of hold to this position that we're liturgical creatures. And so it's not just like it's not just the content that we read, right? It's also the things that we say and the things that we do also shape us. Like scripture tells us that, Jesus says, like, it's not what you're taking in that defiles you. It's not what you're putting in your mouth. It's what's coming out of your mouth that's actually defiling you. And so it's like, and again, this sort of the liturgical creature model, like, is one where it's like, we are shaped just as much by what we do and what we say as the content that like we take in. And so this is something of an issue where it's like, hey, like, are we being shaped by this, by giving vent to maybe our frustration and being ungenerous or unkind? And again, like, it's not to say don't be principled. It's not to say like, hey, we don't co-sign with evil. And that's explicitly like, like but at the same time, like, again, so there's like some, like, these are some things where I'm like, these are some ideas I think in shaping, how we interact with this stuff. I think, and the last thing I'm going to sort of throw up here, the other thing is that we talked about, like, so much of this is about scoring points ideologically, right?
Right.
Like on both sides, like, and it's like owning the libs, owning the conservatives, right? And obviously you and I we're Christian men, we're reformed dudes, right? We are conservative leaning at the very least. We lean conservatively. Like, I think, I don't think either one of us, like, I'm probably closer to being centrist than you are. And I don't even think I'm that centrist. Like, I'm probably more centrist than some people, but like, but like, we lean right sociopolitically. We lean right ideologically. We're conservatives. And so there's like, that's kind of like putting our cards on the table here. And so, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, and again, like, I don't think the answer is like just fleeing these spaces and completely, completely abdicating those and turning those over. But I do think that it means that, like, hey, we just have to be a little more savvy. Yes. And we have to be wiser. We have to be a little more discerning. And so I've kind of been like dumping all this stuff here.
Yeah.
But you go.
As we mentioned earlier, I mean, I do think that there is part of it is just being carried away by the discourse, like you would kind of in a hype cycle. is that, and one thing that, even as we were talking about this, the ideas for this podcast, one thing you have to be mindful of, especially on the internet, is overreaction for the sake of engagement. And because people tend to engage with content that they dislike even more than content that they actually like, which is and that is exploited, that human flaw,
and it's
to
monetized
enjoy
on Twitter.
your sin. Right. And so there is even an inherent advantage for someone to stir things up on Twitter for the sake of engagement and interaction. And we ought to be careful, again, as Christians, careful how we use our tongue, how we use our digital tongues, and that we don't get caught up in the moment. Because, like you said, Nate, there's nothing wrong with even noticing certain things that are going on, even disliking things. So even going back to that example of, say, Fable, I don't like the fact that you would have male characters with feminine traits. I don't like that, an ideology that androgenizes people, and oh no, but not every man has, is super manly. No, that's true, but I think it would be ridiculous not to notice the androgenization of our culture. I think there's this egalitarian bent of our current culture that frankly says straight up there's no difference between men and women. And so to a certain degree, like, is this animation for this way this man walks trying to teach you that? I think it's good to be wary of those things, but we also ought to be measured in the way that we react to it. I can have my suspicions that I don't like what this game is teaching, seems to teach from this trailer, but I also don't know anything else about the game, which is what you said earlier. And so I think reacting wisely would not try and dunk on Fable, even if you get pictures of the dev team. If I remember correctly, I've seen this for Fable, and you say, hey, look at these guys, like, this seems, I'm connecting the dots here, the dev team they seem like they are intentionally trying to push these things on me. And so for these reasons, like, I don't think I'm going to get this game. I think there's a way to get caught up in, say, the meme culture, which I like a good meme. Okay. I like a good dunk, but when that is every reaction, I don't think it's wise. I think for a joke, for a laugh, okay. But when that becomes the normal discourse is just mockery, I don't think that's wise.
Well, and I think that's the other thing is, like, and that in a lot of ways can be weaponized against us. Like, if we fall into, like, those sort of the reactionary sort of, like, ideological, like, pillars where it's like, taking snipes, like, if I'm being honest, and I know some people would maybe disagree with some of this, but it's like, frankly, sometimes, like, when in online spaces, I see the left and the right, and it's like their playbooks are almost identical. It's just a palette swap. And I'm like, that's actually a bit of a problem for me. Because, like, as a Christian, I know that I'm called to do more, to be more than just, like, and so, and I think, like I said, it's one of those things where it's like, and again, I don't know anything about Knight's Path, but it's like, it is really weird that this game kind of comes out of nowhere. This tweet, and again, like the sort of the person asking about that, like, even that, like, looking at that, it's like, that seems like almost like a weird burner account, like, not a bot, but like, this is not like a long-standing. This account had like 2 tweets before this, and then the person says like, "Hey, is there going to be gay romance options?" And it's like, and all of a sudden, like they do this thing where it's like, we don't care about your agenda. We just care about good gameplay. And you're dumping that comment into an environment that's already like primed for this kind of stuff. And now it has like 100,000 wish lists on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, and I'm saying like, I don't want to be too suspicious, but like, to me, that's weird. Like, you know, it's like, nobody knows anything about you guys. Like, you know, and it's kind of like, and then it's like this tweet. And again, I'm not trying to read too much into anything. I'm just telling, like, this is where like my sort of like, I'm like, okay, like this is sort of like it's not like an incendiary tweet. It's kind of like whatever. It's fairly tame, you know, but it's like, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, you poke around a little bit and it's like, okay, this is weird. Like, and again, it's like, and so I think like the other side is like, you know, sometimes like these things can be used against us. So like, and again, it's like, we're in a way, like we're humans. And so we're fallible and we're like, it's all of those things. Right. And we're going to sort of like fall into these cycles. But I do think that some of Christian wisdom and discernment actually requires us to be maybe even a little more reserved in some of these things. And again, like, hey, if the game looks cool, you're sort of like, you're in for it. Like, hey, that's cool. You know, that's fine. Like, it's not saying, I'm not saying don't have opinions, but it's like, I think it's more of like when this stuff, like, and I'm just going to say like my natural reaction, I saw that tweet and I was like, okay, like whatever, this is a nothing burger. I saw like the overreaction on Twitter and I was kind of like just disgusted with like, cause like I see that reaction and it's like, and again, it's kind of like, how can you not know this is the reaction that you're going to get? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how can you not know that this is what's going to happen online? And then my natural sort of like disposition is like, again, it's to just distrust that. Like, it's like, I feel like when people do this, like so much of like engagement online, again, is like performative, where it's like, it's about scoring points or it's about this and that. And it's like, and again, that can be weaponized, especially on Twitter, where engagement is actually monetized. So it was like, you know, but again, it's like, I've had to sort of like step back from that because it's like, I don't know anything about this game. Like I've seen some screenshots, I've seen some like concept art and I'm like, hey, like, I think like the thing is like, so even sort of like my own sort of, again, sort of my predilections or my predispositions, right? It's like, I've had to like sort of push against that and just be like, hey, like some of it is we need to let these games speak for themselves. Right. And we don't know what we don't know. And I think that it's just kind of one of those things where that is tough. Right. I think especially in this day and age, like that's very difficult. Just because it's again, it's sort of like the waters that we've been swimming in have been so charged and so tense that it's kind of, it's tough, to navigate it wisely and well. But I do think it does require us to just sort of maybe be a little more reserved and wait until we have more information, you know, and again, I would also say, I think it's different. Like, so like you're in a group with friends and like, yeah, we say dumb things to our friends and with our friends all the time. Like, you know, I shared a clip of an exchange from a movie that it's like, I was like, you know, and, it's like, that is not something that I would, that is not something that I would share with people in a broader context. Like not everything is for everybody. Yeah. And so I think like that's sometimes those conversations that you have with friends that might get like a little spicier or a little more jokey or whatever. Like those aren't always, you shouldn't always carry those same conversations into public squares. I think that's like kind of knowing your audience, or maybe not even knowing your audience, but like knowing your context actually matters.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that that's part of it. But I do think, like I said, and it's tough. Like, it's tough because like, I think the reality is like, one of these things is that when you make, especially when your principles are grounded in sort of like biblical truth. So when you make a stand, when you take a stand for, the only proper sort of, sexual kind of thing is marriage between a man and a woman, and that's like the only like right expression of human sexuality. That flies in the face of a lot of the ideologies. And so it's like, if you say that in video games, and that's a fairly like innocuous, like banal statement in a lot of ways. Right. But like, you're going to be called a homophobe. You're going to be called a bigot. You're going to be called a fascist. And that kind of like, there's a way in which that can sting, but it's also like, and so it kind of like, it's one of those things where I think there's difficulty in just even navigating those things. It's like, and I think we need to be careful, I think, to not add offense. Like, there's this, like the fact is the truth is offensive enough to the unbelieving world, right? Whether they're conservative or liberal, like whether they lean liberal or conservative, like truth, like the truth of the gospel, biblical truth is offensive to the non-believer, and I think part of this is sort of making sure that we aren't adding offense,
Yeah.
And that's kind of like part of what I just want to encourage people to, it's like, we just need to think about this. Like, we need to maybe slow down. We need to maybe not, and I'm not saying don't engage in culture war stuff. Like, I think we need to make stands, but I think we need to be wise, and we need to be a little more savvy. And I think sometimes that means possibly toning some of our language down, or some of our rhetoric, or maybe not jumping on certain sort of like dog piles. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff there, and especially in gaming, like, and it's kind of like the weird thing is like there are broader applications here, right? But I think especially when we're engaging with gaming culture, it's just I think I was listening to something recently, and it just like I was reminded of the fact that like someday we're going to give an account to the Lord. For
every careless word.
For every careless word. And I think that means every careless tweet, every mean tweet, every like all of that stuff. It's like you're going to give an account. Now, good thing is the good thing here is that the I'm coughing right into the mic. I'm clearing my throat. But the good thing is that the grace of God is sufficient.
Yeah.
And that Christ's life, his death, and his resurrection, they wash you white as snow. But you will still give an account.
Yeah.
And I say a lot of stupid things. Like, I say a lot of stupid things. And sometimes I say stupid things on this podcast. So I don't need to add any other, like, and I think it's like sometimes we don't think about these truths.
Yeah.
Right. Because like the reality is like, it's really easy to slip into like, I was meditating on this morning as I was driving into work. Right. Like, so right now our family's verse is John 1:29b. It says, "Behold the Lamb of God who has come to take away the sin of the world." And John the Baptist says this, right? And really, that is so much of like the Christian, you want to know the key to the Christian living? Behold the Lamb of God who has come to take away the sin. Like, train your eyes, look upon him, like behold him, right? And in a way, be held by him, but like the thing is like, and again, sort of referencing Jamie K. Smith's, or James K.A. Smith, but Jamie Smith's book, you know, You Are What You Love. And
Mhm.
he's the liturgical creature guy, right? It's like, you know, we are made to live with the grain of creation. And ultimately, we know that that's the better and actually the easier way of life is living with the grain of creation, God's natural ordering, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that the reality that we all live in as people, like the local, the much more like contextual stuff. And I think that includes online spaces to a certain degree. Like we are equally shaped by that. And Psalm 1:1 tells us, you know, and it says, blessed is the man who does not walk in the way of, or walk in the way of sinners, or walk in the way of the wicked, stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of scoffers.
Mhm.
But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. And that might be a little bit of a paraphrase, but there's something in there where there's actually a progression, right? So he starts out walking, then standing, and then ultimately sitting.
Mhm.
And that's like, that talks about like the progression of sinfulness. It starts out like you're kind of moving, and you might be moving against the grain, but at some point in time, like you stop moving against the grain. Like you stand in that, and you maybe rest in that a little bit.
Mhm.
And then ultimately you're sitting in it. You're like, you're entrenched in it. And it's not to say that you can't come out of that, like, because ultimately, like, Jesus is the only man who has ever perfectly walked that out. He is the man who has, you know, walked with the wicked, but not been shaped by them. He has stood with the
Mhm.
sinner. He has sat with the scoffers, and he, you know, amongst the scoffers, and he's been merciful. But his delight was on the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditated day and night. And so it's like, and in that we can take ownership of that. But again, it's kind of going like, there's this progression. And I think the natural progression is, again, like, because we're liturgical creatures, your local context, your local experience at times feels much more pressing than it actually is. And it can shape you much more. And it's just easier to see that than maybe like the greater grain of creation. So there's a lot of stuff there where it's like, I'm like kind of like
Yeah.
throwing word vomit out.
Yeah, I mean, it's good, man. Especially, just because we can get so caught up, but we need to. I say we need to recognize, as if like, oh no, everyone needs, you know, fix yourself. But even in my own heart, that like, hey, at the end of the day, like we want to do the Lord's work in the Lord's way. We
Mhm.
want to. Even when we speak, we want to speak the way that a Christian would speak, right? One who
Mhm.
has their eyes fixed on Jesus, as opposed to just the way that the world was, even if they're on our ideological team to some respect. So like going back to even the Knight's Path thing, thankfully, like that, like you were talking about, it was a fairly tame tweet. And even the image that they had for, you know, one of their characters is just this attractive woman, and thankfully it was not as I don't know, exploitative, whatever you want to say, objectifying as
Yeah.
and it was excuse me, it was not objectifying, okay? But you compare it to other things. I mean, I think of this. I brought this up when we were kicking around ideas for this episode too. Of I think parallel to this in kind of the movie and TV discourse space. There are people that I would align with more that are going against the grain of the current culture, but they go so far as to extol, you know, I want more nudity in my movies or something along those lines. Not only do I want to look at beautiful women, I want to look at them without clothes on. And as a
Well,
Christian, we can't sanction those things. Like we're not on the same team there.
Yeah.
It's
And I think that's the thing is like, too, is like, we should rejoice at beauty and truth.
yes.
Like a beautiful thing is a beautiful thing. And I think like one of the things is like, now, and this is what I'm going to say is, it's kind of like, we have to be very careful when it comes, especially as men, like, because the reality is like, we call women the fairer sex for a lot of reasons, just like, because they're pretty as a general rule, like girls are pretty, they're softer, they smell nicer most of the time. But and again, sort of going back to that model is that we know it's one woman, one man, and that's that. And so it does mean that like we have to be very careful. And because of the way the world is and because of the way of our hearts are, like there are predispositions to lust and all sorts of other things. And so like even there, it's like, it's, oh man, that's a good scratch. You're just wow. I need a haircut desperately.
That would be a good scratcher.
But like we should rejoice in beauty. And I think like in a way, like you and I could look at a beautiful woman and be like, that's a beautiful woman, praise God.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to be careful because that's also not your wife. And there's in a certain way that beauty is not meant for you, like, or me. And so I think like even there, like there are, I don't want to say temptations but it's like you have to be careful there, especially because of the fall and our sinful hearts and everything else. But we should rejoice in beauty. I also think that there are a lot of times where, and there is like sort of like even again, there's sort of a kind of on the other side of these things where there is kind of there's just a reject, like ideologically, there's a rejection of all truth and any sort of standards and so, it's kind of just like, it's messy and it's a bit of a mixed bag. Yeah. So we do need to, like, on one hand, we should rejoice in sort of beautiful things. We should rejoice in true things, because all truth is God's truth, and all beauty belongs to Him. That's the hands that comes from the hands of the great artist, right? Yeah. But yeah, and I think like so. Yeah, even there, it comes with some warnings and some caveats. Right. Where it's like, hey, like ultimately, like we have to be even careful in some of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And in what we mentioned earlier, even, it's not, again, far be it for me to say that like noticing and picking up on certain things and that games or stories exemplify as good and true that maybe are not because of the ideological bent of the person who created it, the team who created it, things like that. Noticing those things is a good thing. It's wise. You can even notice something like that from a trailer, so I'm not putting that down. And even I would say, just because I didn't mention this earlier, even warning other people about those things. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Nothing wrong with
that. So please don't hear me saying like, oh, you're just, you should always give everything the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying that either. But I do think there's a step too far where we just kind of join in with again, the meme culture and the idea of you're just attempting to score points and you're just mocking things unduly. And so it is, well, we've said, how do you engage wisely and well? I do think it's a wisdom issue. And one of the last things I wanted to bring up is just the idea of Christian liberty and sin. So there is a line where there are things that we as Christians have the liberty that says in Scripture that all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. Right? So there are things that are morally neutral, that are not sin, that we can engage with, and that falls under Christian liberty. And for some people have stronger consciences than other people. And so there are areas in which I would decide not to play a certain video game for certain reasons, whether that's, hey, these devs made this other game that I really hate, so I'm just not interested. I'm not going to play their game, and I'm not going to give them money. Okay, that's fine. And I think there's Christian liberty in some of those things. Whereas,
or even like these days, the game has explicitly anti-Christian themes, and like the creators have expressed like their like open hatred of Christianity.
Yeah.
Or whatever, like that. Yeah. You are by no means like, I don't support that. You know, but also, yeah, there's a lot of things like if it's not explicitly sinful, like, again, your mileage may vary, like, and it's like, you have to sort of, you have to wrestle, you have to like your own conscience, you have to answer for your own conscience.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, and so you have to answer for your decisions there. And not all content is suitable for all people, you know?
Right.
That's, and frankly, there's some content that's not suitable for anyone.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, the Christian liberty thing is like, you know, it is important there to like, you may have a stronger or weaker conscience. And like, I think, like, be careful in assuming that you're the, like, I think this is something that like, I try to make the assumption sometimes that I am maybe not always the stronger brother. Like, sometimes I do have the weaker conscience or the weaker resolve or whatever. So yeah, but we need to be careful that we don't unnecessarily bind other people's consciences and on sort of subjective things. We have to be careful there. Like that's actually, if you, but also that we don't present temptations to brothers and sisters that they don't need to, you know.
Sure.
Like there are some roads where it's like, you don't want to be the reason a brother or sister stumbles, either.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I think actually there's a lot more to talk about there and diving into specific games that I think we'll have to table for another episode. Because anyways, there are things that come to mind there that I don't necessarily want to tackle, but I think that's a good kind of, blanket statement there. The last thing that I want to say, and I can't remember if we started this episode off saying it, is, as we've already kind of made clear, I guess I suppose I haven't said it explicitly, but I do think that online interactions, they do, like you talked about, they do truly affect us. And so we need to be careful that when we type something into and talk to people through the internet, that we do need to treat it similarly to the way that we talk to people in real life. Not that you can't use slang, not that you can't do things like that. But what I'm saying is that we don't want to sin with the speech that we have online. And so I think it's actually really powerful just to name things like gossip and slander. And that is probably, actually, we probably should have pulled out those words early on in the episode. If we didn't, I just don't remember if we did. Sorry.
I think I did say that I did say that like sometimes if we're not careful, we can actually venture into those realms with things.
I think jumping on it was powerful for me as we talked about this to name those sins and think about how that applies to these contexts of watching a trailer for a video game, is just being careful in our speech that, hey, there might be some things I don't like about this trailer, but be careful that you're not gossiping. Be careful that you're not slandering. You can, and again, not saying there's anything wrong with noticing things about and warning other people. Those are not wrong. But I would say you should be diligent to try not to sin in gossip and in slander. And yeah, I just think that's a powerful way to look at it, that like, oh yeah, no, this isn't just a gray area. Like there are actual true sins that God speaks about a lot, that we ought to be careful with when we talk about these things. And look, guys, I enjoy talking about video games. Obviously, got a podcast,
Mhm.
we don't always talk about the new and shiny. And I'm sure over the course of 204 episodes, I've said things that I will regret if I were to go back and listen to it now. And I haven't always been careful with my speech.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying this to say that, do what I do. What I'm saying, but I do want to try and be better, and I do want to try and engage with the medium, like this episode says, wisely and well. And hopefully this conversation helps you to think about the way that you're engaging with both video games as a medium, but also just this general discourse about video games, if you're involved in that, which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are in some way. And so we would
Mhm.
just caution against sinful speech and in recognizing that our allegiance is not to ideology, it is to Christ. And so
Yeah.
let's seek to engage the medium well, to find to use video games as a method of recreation, sometimes rest, and truly enjoy these things, and not twist that gift that I think God has given us into an allowance for sin.
Yeah. I think sort of framing it as sort of a practice of wisdom is really probably it's one of those things, like, and just even when we've talked about it before, like the way that we play games is different.
Mhm.
Like we come at it with a lot more intention, with like, and it's not to say like we're overly, you need to scrutinize all sorts of things, but like I think part of it's like you don't want to be a mere consumer.
Yeah.
You want to be engaging with the content, again, sort of on a deeper, richer level. And so but I also think that means like sort of the surrounding culture, because like that's part of it, is like the conversations around these games and everything else. And like we want to make sure that when we are speaking into these, um into the different arenas, so that when we're having conversations about games, that these words are useful, that these words are building up, giving grace to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, like, and again, that doesn't mean like, listen, like, sort of coming full circle. It's like I opened up talking about Caleb Hammer and how like I kind of like him because he's a little mean, and it like that appeals to me. I also think there's a kindness in there, like, and it so like like here's the other thing is like I think sometimes the kindest thing you can do is tell a person the truth. In fact,
Yeah.
not no, there's obviously ways to be unkind and tell the truth as well.
Yes.
But I think is that, and so we want to make sure and that's part of it, is like we want to make sure that what we're telling people like is true.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's sort of like, hey, have your opinion, have your positions, and that's fine, and be willing to talk about those and discuss those, but also understand that like you actually have a responsibility to be honest.
Yeah.
And sometimes the way that we can talk about these games, like, and again, sort of some of the dialogue surrounding just like, even like, like one of the things, like, I'll give you an example where a lot of people were sort of like, and this is sort of like a really kind of tangible, but there was a lot of outrage about some of the character, like the going back to Fable, the original character that they showed off, and it was this girl. She was a little homely, but she wasn't like hideous, she wasn't like, she wasn't a model. She was just like she was a little goofy looking, maybe even, right? This female character. And people were losing their minds and being like, oh, like this is proof, the woke agenda of playground games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera,
Sure.
And then it comes out like, well, she's just that there's actually a character creator. Like she's not the main character. It's like, she could be, like, if that's what you want to make within the character creation process.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, so there, it's like, people are sort of like decrying this based on a character model, but like playground games, it's like, that's actually, there's like, actually like they're breaking ties with sort of, because Fable, like, it gives you the character and that's it. Like, it's like, you're this, and you can accessorize and stuff a little bit, but it's like, they're saying like, no, there's a character creator. You can make your character, and we don't know what all of that entails. But it's like, and so even there, like, you know what I'm saying? That's pretty like light. That's pretty, like, that's
Sure.
in some ways insubstantial, but it's like all these people who are getting all worked up about it, they were lying about the game. They weren't being honest, and I think, like, it wasn't intentional. Like, and it might even, like, and it's like, hey, I think it's fair to say, like, hey, I have concerns about X, Y, and Z. It's like, again, sort of ideologies of these studios, like the different things they say. But there is a part where it's like, we need to make sure that we're speaking truth.
Yeah.
And so you can't do that if you don't have all the information. You can't do that. It's like, and again, it's not to say don't have opinions or whatever. Like, we're not saying that. But it's just like saying, like, I think we're urging a little more discernment, a little more discretion, and a little more caution. Which, we're just, we want to, So I don't have anything, it's like, we just need to be careful there. We need to be careful with our words. Every careless word. And,
right. And that includes online discourse. And that's something that we need to wrestle with. I mean, God has put us on this earth at this time when the internet is a major part of our lives. And I can say our because you're only listening to this because you know us through the internet. But for the most part. So this is a battle that he's given you to fight and to figure out and to strategize. And so hopefully this has been an encouragement to do just that, to make sure that you are submitted to Christ, even in the way that you interact online. And
you
games.
Put this in the show notes, and I want to talk about this because it's probably one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite quotes.
Okay,
is that it's like, and I've told this to you before, and but is something Proverbs has a lot to say about fools and engaging with fools, right? One of my favorites is actually like, a fool's mouth invites a beating, and a fool's back is made for the rod.
Made for the rod.
I like those ones. I don't like when they apply to me, but I like those ones. But my dad growing up sort of had this thing. He said, arguing with a fool is like wrestling with a pig. He's like, you have to get down to its level. You get filthy, and the pig just loves it. And I think, like, that's like, some of it is like, we need to make sure that we're not getting in the slop and mixing it up with pigs, because all that does is drags us down. I'm not trying to be unkind. And again, I'm not saying like we need to avoid all these conversations or any of that stuff. I'm not saying any of that. Like, I think we just need to, we need to be better about not climbing into the pig pen and wrestling with swine. Because again, all that happens is we get dirty and they just love it.
Yeah.
Like,
and they get Twitter engagement or whatever,
Yeah. So yeah, all that being said, it's like I said, I just like, and part of this is like, this is not me or you sort of looking out at the crowd and being like, oh, you dummies need to get it. Like, this is sort of coming back at us and saying like, we need to do a better job of this as well.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was, I don't know if that was fun. It was definitely more fun than the Roblox conversation. Like,
oh yeah, I guess we have kind of had a negative bent with the past couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of a whip yourself into shape, and I don't know. At least with this one, it's kind of like a remember who you are, kind of.
Yeah, and it is sort of a call to like going back to that Philippians 4:8. It's like, what we're trying to do is stir ourselves up, stir each other up, stir our audience up to sort of look towards excellence, look towards, and again, I think that Philippians I just think it's such a banger of a verse. I'm going to read it again. And it's just like, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Like, yeah. Like, so like, let's orient ourselves towards excellence, towards truth and beauty and justice. Things that are really praiseworthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
love it.
All right.
Love it. Well, speaking of praiseworthy things, we typically like to give some shout outs before we sign off for the evening. My shout out this time, and I know this kind of breaks the rules a little bit, sort of, kind of. The thing is, I want to shout out to some patrons in our Brochacho chat. Okay. Oh, well, it's breaking the rules because, hey, I'm not supposed to. What goes on in Brochacho chat stays in Brochacho chat, right? And it's kind of it's kind of self-serving to talk about how much fun we have in the Brochacho chat, which are our patrons. I recognize all of that. However, there was some conversations that kind of went along the same lines of what we discussed today, but there was some conversation about some of the things that they would like to see in the podcast, some encouragement in the things that a few of our patrons said that we're doing well, and some specific topics that we may want to tackle in the future that kind of goes along these same lines of Christian liberty, of conscience issues, and things like that. So while I don't want to completely disclose what was discussed, I did want to shout out, thank you, patrons, for that input and that encouragement. It is not only duly noted, but it is also very kind of you, and I really appreciate it. And it's given me ideas for future episodes. So stay tuned for more on that. It'll be good. So shout out to the patrons.
Yeah. No, that was a pretty cool conversation sort of going on in there. And I think that is going to be something that kind of balloons out into an actual topic proper at some point in time. I think, and I said this before, and so I sort of like spilled the beans already, but I did want to shout out our buddy Mark Erickson over at Quick Play. He recently sort of decided to, sort of hitch his wagon to the Playwell Network train. And that's cool. Glad to have him on board there. He's a good addition to the crew. And he's got some again, sort of, there's some cool stuff cooking sort of behind the scenes, folks. And when the time is right, we are really looking forward to we're just looking forward to all of that. So all that being said,
in the words of Ron Swanson, he is a good idea machine.
Yes. Also in the words of Ron Swanson, I want all the eggs and bacon. I think you might have misheard me in saying that I want a lot of eggs and bacon. But what I said was I want all of your eggs and bacon. Ron Swanson also said that.
Yeah, that's
since
true.
We're quoting Ron Swanson.
Wait, is that Ron Swanson? Who is that?
Here comes a new challenger.
That's right. Before we sign off, we've got some challenges because the
terrible that just
segue.
Boy,
I love it, especially on the Street Fighter kick. I just love those sound effects from those games. Anyways, we do like to give each other some personal challenges and in some sort of feeble attempt to hold each other accountable. So, on my previous, just to update, my previous challenge on last month was to start calorie counting. I only did that for a few days, but I am down a few pounds since the start of the year. So there's some positive and some negative there. I didn't exactly do what I set out to do, but it still resulted in at least a little bit of change, which is also good. So that's where I am with my update. Moving forward, however, I would like to challenge, and this is actually one of my goals for the year, is more consistency in family worship. The older I get, the more important that I believe family worship is. It's one of the ways that we, especially as fathers, model for our children and our households what to pass down the faith, but also to model what worship looks like in a daily way. And it's not the only way. Of course, God talks about, just speaking about it throughout the day, putting it on the frontlets of your eyes, having scripture always on your tongue, kind of a thing. So yes, that is important as well. But I think it's important to pass down the faith to your children by reading scripture together. And one of the ways you can do that is family worship. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox for a second, but just to say that I am not very consistent with it. Different days have different schedules, whatever. But what I'm saying is that I know I can go a while and forget about it. And it's like I'm kicking myself. Because every time, especially now that the kids are getting older, every time we do it, it's always really encouraging. But it's also not always on the forefront of my mind. So that is what I want, is consistency in family worship.
Yeah, dude. That's cool. Yeah, it's definitely something, I could work on a little bit more here. Like we have I think the rhythm that we've kind of like is like, for now, the rhythm that we've stuck with is just like, we have like a monthly verse, we have a monthly song. Sometimes we
That's so cool.
take that out to 2 months, and we just kind of like, it's like, it's like today we even started working with and we'll probably actually hang on to this verse and this song for another month. But like, it's like trying to teach Byron some scripture. Like John 1:29b is not long. It's like, behold the Lamb of God who comes to take away the sin of the world. And so it's like we sit there and we're like, repeat after me, and like, so yeah.
That's so cool.
Cool. Yeah, it's but it's definitely something I want to be better in as well. I think, just like coming into the new year, there's always like, you sort of like, there's always like the resolutions and everything else. And I think like, it's just like, and I've said this before, like, so this year it's like, I'm not going to make any bones about it. I actually have been talking to a friend who is a Christian counselor. And we've talked about like, I'm probably going to start, I need to reach back out to him and just sort of like get things really, the ball really rolling with that. So this year I'm going to start some counseling and do some deep work. I think the other thing though is like, part of that is reclaiming some of like disciplines that I've fallen off with. And so a primary discipline for me has been journaling. That's been one of like the most beneficial disciplines for me. That's like, when I'm doing that, a lot of the other disciplines fall into place. Like it becomes like that's a kind of like a linchpin discipline for me. So I think like the thing is like, and because I think the best way to make these things like long standing habits is to start small. It's just like trying to get back into like, okay, like just like one page a day of like journaling and meditation. Like make sure that you're taking 5 to 10 minutes to maybe do some reading and doing some thinking and reflecting on that. So like things like that. Just like little steps, something small, but it's like every day sort of like try and knock this out. And then as you sort of build up sort of resilience in this, like you can do more here, but then you can start adding in other small things. And so hopefully it's like, it's kind of like,
Nice.
So that's my sort of resolution, like just a small start in sort of building in some disciplines that I've kind of fallen off with. And so, like eventually, like I'd like to get back into exercising with more frequency, like, but yeah. So yeah.
Cool. Nice. Well, we will check back in a month, the start of March. Yeah. It'll be good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that being said, I think we have done all the forms. So, Josh, if people want to get a hold of us, where can they do that?
Oh, that's right. Check out linktree.com/the backlog breakdown. That has links to all of our social medias. And who knows, it might be updated with some things coming down the pike. We'll see. I don't know. But for right now, linktree.com/the backlog breakdown. Join us.
Okay.
We'd love to hear from you. If you think we were way off base in this episode, we'd love to hear you. Love to hear your critique. Or if you're encouraged, we'd love that even more.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like any feedback is usually good feedback, but we like it when you like it. We like it more when you like it.
Yes.
That's more gooder.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think this is a pretty good conversation. There's always, I think sometimes with stuff like this, there's always more to say, but I think sort of leaning into wisdom, it's also knowing when it's like, okay, like it's just time to wrap it up and go to bed.
Yeah, there you go.
So that being said, I think we're landing in a pretty good spot here. And so until next time, Josh, we've done our thing. What should they do?
Guys, keep beating down your backlogs and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.